Welcome to the Voices for Voices podcast, sponsored by Redwood Living. Thank you for joining us today. I am Justin Allen Hayes, founder and executive director of Voices for Voices, host and humanitarian. You can learn more about Voices for Voices on our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and our website, voicesforvoices.org. Voices for Voices is a 501c3 nonprofit charity organization that survives solely on donations. So if you are able to, please consider heading over to voicesforvoices.org to help us continue our mission and the goal and dream to help 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. Or you can also send a donation to the mailing address of Voices for Voices at 2388 Beckett Circle, Stowe, Ohio, 44224. Are you or somebody you know looking for a volunteer opportunity? If so, you can reach out to us today via email at president@voicesforvoices.org. I founded Voices for Voices to provide a platform for folks to share their stories with others as we work to break the stigma around mental health, accessibility, and disabilities, helping people get the help they need while also helping them prepare or transition into the workforce with the Voices for Voices Career Center, where we connect talent with opportunity for both job seekers and employers alike, from coast to coast and in every industry and job level. Today, please join me in welcoming today's guest, Executive Director of the Dalton Foundation and co-founder of the Haiti Health Network, Barbara Campbell. Thank you for joining us today, Barbara.
Thank you for having me, Justin. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you in studio live to be able to share with the viewers through television and audio, and even today some of our viewers will notice that we also have integrated American Sign Language interpretation, and want to give a shout out to the Kent State University American English Sign Language Interpretation Program. And the two signers we have for today are Elise Miller and Grace Sherman. So always trying to take a step to be able to make our podcast more inclusive for those that want to be able to tune in and find out what we have going on and who we're talking to. So Barbara, can you tell our audience and viewers a little bit about yourself, how you got started with the career you're at, and maybe why that was interested to you?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to share my story and how it got to where I am now. I don't have a tragedy story, which I'm very blessed to say. I think my story is more one of dissatisfaction and searching, and my life's been a journey. I grew up in a great family and I had great opportunities, and for that I'm very blessed, but I found myself in my mid-30s very dissatisfied. I think you'd probably say depressed, although not clinically diagnosed, but very dissatisfied, even though I had a great husband and I had great children and I had a great house and I had the American dream, but yet I was dissatisfied, and it began a journey for me. For me, it was a very strong faith journey of researching after researching religions and faith, and really finally for the first time in my life understanding my Christian faith that I had been brought up in and had rebelled from. And that was unbelievably impactful for me. And literally overnight, I went from extreme dissatisfaction to unbelievable joy, and not one of my circumstances changed. So it was an amazing life change for me as I began to study the Bible and God's Word, and it was an amazing transformation. And the story continued. The same kind of thing happened for my husband. He was in a similar position, and our lives drastically changed from I was in healthcare as a pharmacist. He was in business as an international executive, to how do we change our lives to serve? And for me, it really began, and for our family too, to be honest with you, in 2010, in January of 2010, big earthquake hit Haiti. Maybe your viewers remember that, maybe they don't. Something I'll never forget. I had traveled all over the world at that point of my life, but I had never been to Haiti. I had never been to a place like Haiti. We spent our time avoiding places like Haiti, I must be honest. And so I was there. I had the opportunity to go with my church a few days after the earthquake hit, and it was absolutely life-changing. It ended up at that earthquake, just as a refresher, about 150,000 people died. Which, you know, again, we see earthquakes that are happening all the time, but that number is probably not accurate. It's probably low, but it's just unbelievable the amount of life that was lost right then. And to be there and to see that and to feel so utterly helpless in the light of that, it just radically changed my life. From that point on, I just felt this pull to Haiti and to the people there, and to what I fell in love with healthcare professionals while I was there, because as being one, I think we have this view that, you know, if you have education and if you have things, then your life is good. And my impression in Haiti was these people were super educated and passionate about their work and working hard, and yet their lives were so difficult. And for me, I came back from that trip, you know, very passionate, and started leading trips down from our church, started leading medical trips down to kind of continue the work in the area where we were and to support the medical clinic that was there. And then, you know, one thing leads to another, and my husband is quitting his job, and we're both working at this mission organization in Haiti. He's doing more business development. He was working with women that had survived the earthquake that were amputees, and then also the hearing impaired community as well. In a tragedy like that, the hearing impaired community is very vulnerable, and they were able to aggregate them together to help support them, and he worked with that. So that was kind of how our lives changed, and we switched paths, and how it all began for us. And we spent about 6 years working down there. We didn't live there full time. Our children were in high school, but it was a great experience for them as well.
So as the transition of kind of looking inward to now looking outward and serving others, how does that emotionally, how did that make you feel? You know, because we hear terms of, well, if I serve others, that's not going to fulfill me or make me feel good, either about myself, about my life, about what I'm doing. Can you maybe share just some of those feelings that you had? And it sounds like you probably still have those today, which probably keeps you still working in that line.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I think there's so many lies I think we believe, and one of them would be that serving like that would be you know, giving up so much. And I've found that, and I still believe that lie, so I don't want to pretend that I have it all figured out, but I have found that when I am serving, I am doing what I have been created to do. And I truly believe all of us, every single person, is created to do things and to help and serve each other. And when you do that, you get a glimpse of what God has planned for our lives. And it's like a, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a high that you can never explain. And I will say this, though, to add on to that, because I think there can be something a little misleading about that. It's important to remember that it's not about you. And I think that that's a lesson. As you do serving like that long term, and it becomes hard, and it becomes challenging, and there's a time, and you know, you volunteer, you serve, you might have experienced it as well, when man, this is hard, this is not that fun, and you really have to realize, you know, who you're serving and why you're serving. And I constantly, you know, am reminded it's not about you. And that's a really important lesson, and I think important for people that do serve as they go into longevity, is that it isn't about me. I mean, I do think it's important to take breaks and to take care of yourself, and all that stuff becomes very important, but you have to keep in mind who you're serving and why you're serving.
And to really dovetail on that and take that view of it's not always about me. Serving others is good. It's good for the world. It's good for the soul. And I like to think of when I made maybe my revelation or accepting and wanting to serve, and I kind of looked at life and said, at the end of my life, what do I want to be remembered for? Do I want to be remembered for person A, who is totally narcissistic, wanting to go out and party and do things that were detrimental health-wise to relationships? Or is there something bigger? How can I make a bigger impact where, again, to your point, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about how we can touch the lives and help. And that feeling, it feels good, and it doesn't always have to take money. Sometimes individuals think, well, if I donate or if I can't donate, I'm not contributing. It can be your time.
Absolutely.
It can be that. And that sounds like how that started with Haiti, where it started out with time, and was the organization formed at that point, and you were coming on board, or how did that work itself into your lives?
So the organization that we ended up working for definitely existed. It was strong. It already had a health clinic. It already had a lot of great ministry happening in that region of Haiti, and we came on to serve and augment in those areas.
Okay.
And I view my job, I always say I was like a consultant, and that I was there to support the Haitian physicians that were there, and just a cheerleader really is what I was, and then to help support them by raising funds and helping them financially. So that was how I always viewed my role. And as that evolved, I got more and more interested in the bigger picture of like, okay, we're doing this here. I've always been really passionate about collaboration and working together. And when you work at a place like that, even here in the U.S., when you're working for a nonprofit, let's face it, it can be hard. Yeah. You got to raise funds. You're relying on so many other things that are out of your control. So I became really passionate about connecting organizations so that they could share resources, support one another. And I was really passionate about doing that around the healthcare sector in Haiti. And the Dalton Foundation was one of our financial funders at the time. I got to know Mr. Dalton and his family very well. I loved the way he thought of big picture thinking. And there was a time after we had launched our mobile medical program and everything was kind of running, I always said my view is to work myself out of a job. That's a win, right? Yeah. So you can work yourself out of a job. I was at that point, and then he had offered me to come to Ohio and to help lead the foundation. And so we did that in 2017 and moved up here.
So the foundation is based, is it based in Hudson or Twinsburg?
It's based in Twinsburg.
Okay.
Yeah, it started by the Dalton family with the profits from their businesses, and there have been 11 of them over the years. The current business is still existing, Relink Medical in Twinsburg, and we are able to be blessed with many resources to help us give back. And the giving that we do usually surrounds 3 or 4 areas. We do healthcare. A lot of that is international, so we still do a lot of work in Haiti, which I can talk about that a little bit more. And then we also do some projects in Africa and other regions as well. We've done some stuff to support Ukraine in the past year. So that's one period. And then here in Ohio, we definitely focus on addiction recovery, helping individuals that are caught in human trafficking situations, and re-entry, people coming out of incarceration, how to help support them. So we support organizations that support people, and then we do things directly. And I'll talk about the relink.org project in a little bit.
Yeah. What's maybe the favorite of the foundation, the favorite area? And it sounds like, it's all giving, it's all serving, but is there one area where you're going to be working on that project coming up, or going to be traveling, that makes you feel extra, gives you the extra boost, extra energy, or does it all fall into that same feeling?
Our 2 main things that we put most of our energy to are into our work in Haiti, where we helped form the Haiti Health Network for that vision that I had in 2017 and Mr. Dalton had in 2017 to make that come to life. And that's been really huge now. If your viewers are following Haiti, it's not a good place right now. I couldn't be there with my family right now, even if I wanted to. It's not safe. And so, but the passion for the people of Haiti, the desire to advocate for them, the desire to support the organizations is stronger than ever. And the amount that our team is able to do despite the difficulties is incredible. So that's a huge focus of ours. But what I, here locally in Ohio, talking about our relink.org project, I think is really important, because we have worked with a lot of people here in Hudson, but we really work all over the state of Ohio on this project. And this project started out from the opioid epidemic, which I know we all know is ravaging our area, and the absolute lack of understanding of what resources were available, especially back in 2017. You have a foundation and people come to you and they would like funding for this or that. And I think one of the first questions you need to wisely ask is, what's already happening? Like, you're telling me you need a detox facility, but how many other detox facilities are there in Summit County? How many are there in Cuyahoga County? So we set out to answer that question and map the state of Ohio related to addiction recovery resources. So where are all the beds? Where are all the treatment centers? And we did that. And we set up focus groups around the state to collect data and get input to make the software easier and easier to use. But we quickly learned that just listing addiction recovery resources wasn't enough, that people that are struggling and trying to seek recovery, they need a lot of resources over a long period of time. And so we added in resources for basic needs like food, clothing, furniture. We put in job resources, second chance employers, all these type of things. Many people that struggle with addiction also have felonies on their record. So how do we help people with felonies get jobs? That's where the kind of the reentry piece came in. And so we work very closely with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections on this project. And then we also, like when you talk about human trafficking, most of the individuals that are caught in human trafficking are also struggling with some type of addiction. And so it all overlaps. And so we designed to put that all in one platform. And the platform now has over 13,000 resources covering all 88 counties. It's used by a couple thousand people in Ohio every single week. And we have a great team that's working on it just to create awareness. The site is completely free. No one pays to use it. Our motto is 3 clicks, 3 seconds, at least 3 options. And so we want people to be able to find something quickly. And we also, people don't pay to be on it. There's no advertising. It's not like if you have a lot of money, you come up higher in a search. It's a level playing field, giving people information that they can make decisions.
That's amazing. We do have students that maybe watching, listening, and with me being an instructor at Walsh in the marketing program, there are many students that are looking at entrepreneurship, ideas of starting a business and what all that takes. I know we don't have time to get into all the specifics, but maybe at a high level with all your experience. I don't want to say like professional and serving, but all your experience. How did you make a decision? How does one go about, once you have that idea, how does one go about forming or saying, I want to start an organization versus I want to just serve with an organization?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that's an individual thing that people need to, in my case, I would say pray through and just see where you're being led on all that. I think when you come to the idea of entrepreneurship, I'll channel Mr. Dalton a little bit and try to say a few things that he would say, because he's a serial entrepreneur, and you may want to interview him because he'll help you with that topic. But you always want to identify a problem, that you're trying to solve, because if you can hit a pain point with people, that's how something will be. And whether you're talking about a nonprofit idea, which was the relink.org idea, or whether you're talking about a for-profit business that might end up making a lot of money someday. Either way, you've got to have a problem you're trying to solve that other people perceive as a problem as well. That can be a huge challenge, because sometimes people identify a problem, but no one else really sees it, and so that becomes a problem. But once you identify that problem, and then you try to say, okay, who else is trying to solve this? So that you make sure, like maybe it's already being done, and maybe you just want to join in, or maybe your solution is a little bit different. And that's goes into the next question, is how is your solution, or how is what you're thinking better, faster, or cheaper in the case of a for-profit, and be able to articulate that. So if your students are marketing people, they have that ability. I don't have that ability, but to be able to articulate that clearly and concisely, I think is really important to get something started.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. We've talked about how the Dalton Foundation helps others. We've talked about Relink. do you want to go maybe a little more into depth about Relink, about how people can find out about it,
Sure,
and different
absolutely.
options, like you said, being either listed, or if somebody knows of somebody that is in need and wants to check that out, just what those options are?
Yeah, like I said, absolutely, relink.org is free, and the website is just www.relink.org. And you go to that, and then you'll click Need Resources, and up pop the database, and you can search. And I ask everyone to test it, please. 3 clicks, 3 seconds, at least 3 options in all of our categories is our goal. And the main users of the site, again, the original intent was to help people that were struggling and or their family members. And those people definitely use the site, but we know we have what we call our super users, and it's used by a lot of social workers. It's used by a lot of counselors. We're doing a lot of work in the church community now to help pastors and priests be able to save time. We know, I know when I was on front lines in ministry, people come to you with needs all the time, and it can be really overwhelming, and it can be time consuming. If so-and-so needs to find a bed for their child today, and you've got your agenda, it takes time, right? And so our design with relink.org is, can we save people time? So if you're a pastor or a priest and you're talking with people with needs, and your church might be able to meet these 2 needs, but no church can do everything, how can we find a tool that can quickly connect people, save time, and then let the counselors, the priests, the pastors do what they're there to do, which is to love on and to care on and to guide people and not waste their time finding things. So that's our goal with that, is to be a big time saver. So I encourage people to log on and use it, relink.org. And then if you are a service provider, so you offer some sort of addiction recovery resource, a reentry resource, something for those caught in human trafficking, or even a food pantry, a clothing thing, you can register on relink.org. You can reach out to us at info@relink.org. Or if you go to the site, you'll see an easy button to click and register. And once an organization is vetted, you can actually update your own information. And the remarkable thing for organizations too is they are searched a lot of times. Like, we keep track of how organizations are searched. And since January, some of our top organizations have been searched close to 10,000 times since the beginning of the year. And right now we're in early February. So. Anyway, it's a way for organizations to get visibility, so we encourage them to get on. And again, no advertising, nobody's pays to come to the top. It's just where people are searching organically.
That's awesome. Getting back a little bit into when you made that initial trip to Haiti, and I guess this comes from even me and my parents and my family of last year when we were making the plans to go to Poland to help some of the Ukrainian refugees. Is it safe? What is there any precautions? Do I need a bodyguard? Do I need security? For people that want to help out and they have that interest, but maybe that those thoughts creep into mind, like, well, I have the resources, I'd love to go, I'd love to help, but I hear these news stories and it just sounds like it's dangerous, or whatever that or is. How did you get over that initially?
That's a great question. Confession time. I'm not over it. I think what I've learned is, I've been probably on 2 or 3 passports worth of trips to Haiti and spent extended periods of time there for months and months on end. It never goes away for me, in that, for me, always in my mind, it's easier to do nothing.
Yes.
It's easier to do nothing. It's easier to stay at my nice, cozy house and take no risk, to not put my children in any risk. It's easier. I'm not going to lie. It is, and it's always in my mind. But again, I believe that is the voice of the enemy. But I'll talk about the other side of that in just a minute, because you do have to have wisdom along with it. But I believe comfort is a blessing, but also a curse. And when you are comfortable, it becomes harder and harder to come out of your comfort zone. I will just say that being a part of a wise, planned out trip to somewhere like Poland or Ukraine or anywhere like that, or even another area of town that you're not familiar with or that you necessarily feel comfortable in, it's an unbelievable blessing after you do it. Every single time I get on the plane, I'm like, why am I doing this? Every single time I'm coming back, I'm like, thank God I did that. And maybe it'll go away for me someday. The culture shock and things like that have gone away, but not that draw toward comfort. So for me, it's a constant battle. So I would encourage people, if you feel it, don't. Now, on the other side, you have to have wisdom. So again, I've went to Haiti, I've brought my kids there. When it gets to a certain point, you have to rely on people on the ground, you have to rely on information that tells you this is not a wise place to go. And again, I use prayer for my guideline always too. And I feel like there's enough wisdom and information out there that you can go, but there is a risk. There is a risk when you go into it, and I'm okay with that as long as it's a calculated decision. So it is a risk.
It is, and I believe, and I wholeheartily believe and agree. When I got on the plane heading over to Poland, my mom's in my own ear, like,
yeah, don't
go. Like, it's very dangerous. And then on the other side, it's like, but that's stepping outside of my comfort zone, and that's me helping others. So it may take a little bit of a risk. And getting on the plane, leaving there, it was like, oh my gosh, like,
how could I have ever not wanted to go? What is
like,
my problem?
I want to go later in the year, and I want to outbound and do more and stay connected. So thank you for that, because that sometimes comes up with, family, anybody really, of thinking like, oh, are you sure you want to do that? Did you already book the ticket? Like, is there a way you can get out of it? Is there a refund policy? Did you get the insurance?
It's good to have people that love us and worry about us.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah, that helps balance out. What do you want people to take away from our discussion today? There's a lot of information, and they'll be able to view it, listen to it, see the signing, the transcripts. But kind of overall, what would you like people to have a takeaway if they're just tuning in at this point?
Well, I think a couple things. I mean, certainly the relink.org resource, we want to encourage people to use it, let people know that one thing I've observed from the state of Ohio, there are a lot of people here that want to help. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of resources out there. So if you're in a situation where you're feeling desperate, look up, because there are people around in the different communities that want to help. And then secondly, to your last point of just about that getting out of your comfort zone, just be mindful about comfort and what it is. Comfort is a blessing, but I will tell you, it hinders us from so many things, and just be able to think through that. And I encourage everyone to do something hard every day. If you do the same thing every day, when I look back on my dissatisfaction, a lot of it was that. I had an easy life, there was nothing challenging. Things were great, but I believe human beings are meant to be challenged. I believe we're meant to grow. God wants to grow us and develop us and refine us, and we have to let him do that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Any social media? I know you went relink.org. Any social media handles that people could follow?
We are on Facebook and LinkedIn at relink.org. Also, the Dalton Foundation has a website that talks more about all the work that we do, and we have LinkedIn as well as Facebook. So.
Yeah, it's awesome, and to hear from somebody like you that's on the ground, that sees, taking those analytics of 10,000 searches, and we're not even 2 months into a year. That's a big number. It's not 10. It's not 10,000. That's huge, and that shows that there is a need, and people do want to help. And again, to reiterate, if somebody is in need and isn't sure and just wants to research and see, is there anything out there that could help me? Seeing that might help change somebody's life. Just saying, oh, I thought I was alone. I didn't think, I'm starting a new business. Maybe there's already somebody out there that's doing it. Maybe I don't have to travel 30 miles to get it. Maybe I can travel close, or maybe I can do it through Zoom.
Yeah, and something we've heard quite a lot just this past week, is that this world can be a dark place and can be lonely, and you can go through things where things are beating you down. And sometimes people say, I just had no idea that there were so many people out there that wanted to help. It's like, yeah, that's another lie we believe. They're there. They want to help. Just, reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Barbara.
Sure. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us for this episode of the Voices for Voices podcast. And again, a special thank you to our guest today, Barbara Campbell, for spending her time with us and with you. Until next time, I am Justin Allen Hayes, founder and executive director of Voices for Voices, host and humanitarian. We hope you have a great day, and please be a voice for yourself or somebody in need.